Testing. How about now? Is that okay? You guys can hear now? Is that good? Yeah? You should be able to hear me now. We're good, right? All right, we're good. All right. Sorry, there's just such a delay between your guys' chat and what I'm doing. In my mind, I'm like, I fixed the audio like minutes ago, and you guys are just now realizing. First of all, I'm sorry I'm late. I am trying to be on time these days. I'm trying to be no more than 30 seconds late at the most. Obviously, this was more like 5 minutes. All right. I think we're good. TY says, you may have lost the war, but you won the hearts and minds of the people. That is false. Maybe some people, but a lot of people, I think, are angrier. Thomas Cass says, I have crippling depression and the raid succeeded, made it worse, not gonna lie. Oh, geez, I hope most of your mental health was not relying on the raid failing. Phantom SSJ says, it was a fun ride, my friend. Hashtag raid success. Yes, hashtag raid success. The factual, authentic hashtag compared to the raid fail. 6 minutes late? I was 5 minutes late. Let's not push it. I'm already apologizing for being late. Did I apologize? I think I apologized. I'm already apologizing for being late. We don't have to make things up like I was 6 minutes late. I was 5 minutes late. Let's be clear here. Okay, spoilers. Let's discuss those real quick. We now live in this weird topsy-turvy world where spoilers are coming out. It's actually insane. It's fucking insane. Spoilers are now coming out at the same time that the previous chapter is releasing. How fucking crazy is that? Chapter 1052 just officially released yesterday. At the same time, or was it arguably earlier? The spoilers are already out for the next chapter. When am I supposed to stream? When are we supposed to have these discussions? Are we supposed to be doing these discussions 2 weeks in, like, am I already supposed to be discussing 1054? What are we doing here? Brandon King says, Green Bull has a pop green. Oda is trolling us. Yeah, Green Bull, what if he has no Logia, no Zoan fruit, nothing? He's just using pop greens, but on steroids. Scholar Eats says, rant stream, please. Thanks for the raid fill content. So I'm in a bit of a conundrum. Conundrum. You guys know what they are. 1 second. Wow Jr. says, hi, Borge. Hope your baldness treatment is going well and you can become Dr. Max Morgius once again. I hate when people joke about me going bald because I know I'm not going bald, but just the fact that I've seen other people my age, friends of mine, already experiencing it, and I'm like, man, if I lose my hair, then I have nothing. So I don't have the raid fail. I don't have a nice background. I don't even have my nice wooden chair anymore. If I go bald, I've lost everything. Ivan back from the card shop says, the state of this arc has left me so baffled that it's hard to believe he didn't just decide to rush it, but I'm sure if we said that, they would just say we're coping about the raid fail. Why are there acts? ? Okay, I'm just going to talk about that last little sentence he said. Why are there acts? I don't know why there are acts. It makes no sense to write a story that's split up over 3 acts. If Act 1 and 2 are like 25 chapters total, and Act 3 is just like 150 chapters, it makes no, it's so weird. It's like, why even split it up into acts then? The first 20% was Acts 1 and 2, and then the whole 80% was Act 3. It's not like the story's being paced out over the course of these acts. It's all just one act. All right. That's a minor point, but in general, right? We're talking about you're asking for a rant stream, you're asking for stuff like that. I will probably not be doing anything like that. Why? Because my reputation is what's worse than the gutter. Like, imagine something worse than the gutter. The sewer. It's in the sewer. It's in the swamps right now. Imagine underneath the city. There's the sewer, there's the swamps or sewers, right? Inside those sewers, there's a troll, and the troll in there has a porta potty, and he uses that. So the porta potty within the sewers underneath the city, that's where my reputation is right now. So no, I'm not going to be blessing you guys with a rant stream. That being said, I do want to do 2 things. First, a Wano Arc Analysis. This will be the objective one where I'm purely breaking down what themes, character arcs, etc. happened in the arc. 2, my personal review and personal feelings of Wano. I'm going to make that very clear that this is subjective, my personal feelings, and in that, I'm probably going to go through and just beat by beat break down everything that I personally strongly disliked in the arc, and some things that I strongly liked in the arc, but those things are greatly outnumbered by the other things that I disliked. However, that'll be the more personal thing, right? So I'm still going to keep the analysis, objective part of it separate from my review. That being said, I don't know when is the best time to do that, because if I'm being perfectly fair, I should wait till Wano Arc wraps, and I know enough about the spoilers for next chapter to know that the Wano Arc does not close with this next chapter. So it would be unfair for me to do a video talking about, say, Yamato and her lack of character arc if it turns out in the next 2 chapters post-break, Yamato gets a character arc and it's like really good somehow. Gusham Nakurji is here. Look at that. Pirate that Shanks told Gorosei about is... All right, okay, I forgot. We have to address the spoilers first, right? So I can't read out your comment just yet because I don't know how many people are aware or not aware of the spoilers. Also, I have some additional info on spoilers that the people do not. Why? Because I have access to top secret information in the form of TCB scans. So I need to look at the stuff that he said is out for public consumption and stuff that he says I need to keep under wraps, just so I know what I'm allowed to share and not allowed to share. Because if I accidentally share things that I'm not allowed to share, then he won't be sharing things with me anymore, will he? Dillionaire says, Young Dilly, you mentioned the Green Bull theory in your vid, you should mod now. Also, Young Dai Lee, you mentioned the Green Bull theory in your vid, you should mod now. I don't even know what this means. Also, thoughts on Robin missing. Young Dai Lee, you mentioned the Green Bull theory. That name does seem familiar, though. Also, thoughts on Robin missing. I can't share thoughts on that. Well, I'm allowed to share things that I thought that I kind of assumed from before I saw spoilers and stuff like that, right? So I'll just say I assume Robin is out learning about lore and shit like that. Aztec Device says, thoughts on Berserk coming back. Yeah, I want to do a couple Berserk videos. I think that this is a great opportunity to try my hand at that because I've got a lot of Berserk stuff that I want to talk about, but there's so much damn One Piece to talk about, I can't really talk about other series. But with a full month break going on, I will definitely be dipping my toes into Berserk. Maybe Hunter x Hunter. I'll probably do chapter reviews of Hunter x Hunter as that stuff comes out. But full-on analysis videos, I've got way more content to talk about for Berserk than Hunter. So let's see. Supreme Part King says, Morge, I'm disappointed. You could have mentioned the fuck out of the raid you could have memed the fuck out of the raid succeeding. I'm talking about dramatic lighting with sad Naruto music as you address this. Listen, man, you know how checked out I was by the time the raid succeeded? You know how, by the time the raid succeeded, let's just say this. There's enough memes out there about the raid succeeding, about me and the raid succeeding, that I don't need to add to that stockpile, right? If you want memes of me and the raid succeeding, Twitter is, Twitter is your paradise. Go wild, go nuts. You'll find a million different memes that people have assembled. William Marshall says, Wano might have the worst character deaths in the series. Death scenes for Kiku and Kinemon and They Live, yet Izu and Ashura get off-screened. Yeah, it's fucking bizarre. It's absolutely fucking bizarre. And it's like, I get like, Ashura's death, I think, could have been a really good death because he had potentially the best character arc out of the Scabbards. It's just like, it was done so offhand that I think most people didn't even think he died at that point in time. MMM26 says, what were those matchup changes you wanted? Would it be fun to do this for a video, or is that just to... I'm gonna hold off on that. That might be fun to do in a video where I'm kind of going over things that, like, I personally thought that could happen if the raid failed. That never came to be. And matchups would be one of those, basically. And it would basically be throwing out, like, here's the whole thing of, like, what could have happened that I never really discussed because I didn't want to get too down that rabbit hole. But now that that rabbit hole is closed off and never happening, might as well discuss it. Ivan back from the card shop says, you see the thread of all your wrong Wano theories. Oh, I saw that thread, but I was quiet on Twitter all weekend because I'm like, what am I going to do? Respond to this thread? More Drake discussion says, read my comment below the super chat. It's long. Where? Oh, our TCB says, check on Reddit what spoilers are out. Okay, so I can do that and compare to what you said in the DM. It seems right. More Drake discussion says annoying slow mode. Oh, are we in slow mode? I'm sorry. I know how to fix that. We're not doing slow mode ever again. Unless, of course, we have to. How do I... Fuck. Jeez, I had to Climb a mountain just to figure out how to turn on slow mode. All right, slow mode is off. We're done with slow mode. Sorry about slow mode. That was a leftover from like 3 streams ago. I didn't know that that would just stay that way. More Dre discussions. Okay, let's see. Where's your comment? Where's this comment I have to look out for? I don't see it anywhere. You just said annoying slow mode. That's the only comment I'm seeing from you. Alfred Dupont says, number 1 VOD viewer back again because One Piece has fallen off. I'm imploring you to start reading Kingdom again. Your analysis would be perfect for it. I'm down to try Kingdom. I've always been down to try Kingdom. I read the first arc and I liked the first arc quite a bit. Felix C says, this break is so weirdly timed if Wano is still on. Yeah, I think we were all under the impression that the break would close at like some sort of major point or something like that. But I think Oda really just wanted a month break. And it happened to fall during this period of time. We don't know how far back he planned it, so we don't know if like chapters were perfectly scheduled out or whatever, or if he thought that he'd be closing Wano right at that moment. I don't really know how to explain the break, but it's not like, I was a weekly reader back when the time skip break happened, and that time skip break made sense because it was just like, yeah, like all of this crazy, insane shit just happened. We probably need a break right about now, right? We probably need a bit of a break just to soak everything in. And then it literally made the time skip feel more like a time skip because we, the reader, were personally experiencing a One Piece, like a real life time skip while Oda is having the characters go through a time skip. J.K. Kane says, love you, Corge. Thanks for all the amazing content so far. I can't wait to ride out the rest of this journey with the rest of the Morbius community. Yeah. So the Morbius jokes are going to stick at least for a little bit, right? Mauricio Del Valle, and I appreciate what you just said. Thank you. Mauricio Del Valle says, Oda literally said that he wants to reorganize the story to make it as quick as possible. That literally means the same as rushing it doom-pilled, period. It does, in a literal sense, mean that he is... reorganizing it to make it faster does make it sound as though he is... I want to believe in the future arcs. Here are reasons that I believe that I'm optimistic for future arcs, okay? Reasons I'm optimistic for future arcs is, 1, Wano had to do a lot of internal, like, within the Wano little mini universe building up of stuff, right? In theory, everything going forward can be mainly main character centric, right? Because Elbaf, maybe we get really deep into the Giants shit and stuff like that, but I also think it's also very possible that Elbaf is just like a smaller cast. I think a smaller cast, maybe more relegated to just the Straw Hats, maybe less allies and stuff running around. I like to think that the final war will be all established characters, so characters we're actually interested in learning about, not like, the 5 mafia families that used to serve under Hyogoro, but instead stuff like, the revolutionary armies, right? The remaining emperors, things like that. So I have high hopes I won't say high hopes, but I have hopes for the rest of the series. Sad Goomba says, hi, Morge, you're the best. Thanks. I have a theory on Reddit about the Yonkos coming out of and erupting Mount Fuji and ruining the party. # high on copium. Dog, it's been a week. It's been a week, man. Like a week later? Them coming out a week later? Even I'm not that high on copium. Lord Naga Viper says, do you think Wano can be salvaged / what would your idea be? Isn't Wano over? What does that mean? What's there to... Either you liked it or you didn't like it. What else is there to happen in this arc specifically that would make you be like, whoa, this is like a 10 out of 10? Either you already have it as like a good arc, or you're like, not so hot on it. I don't know if there's that much room for the other options. Wait, people want slow mode? Well, look at that. All the mods want slow mode. What a surprise. Let me throw out a poll. All right. Do you guys like slow mode? ? Yes. No. Here's the tricky thing. I feel like all normal chatters hate slow mode, naturally. So the normal chatters are going to vote no for slow mode, and the mods are going to vote yes for slow mode. The problem is, I mod so many people that there's probably an even split in terms of how many modders there are versus normal people. Because I'm very, very generous with who I mod. Okay, it's like an even split. All right, then you know what? How about we do this? We'll do slow mode for 15 seconds slow mode. 15 seconds slow mode. Before it was something ridiculous. 25 seconds. That's way too much. 10. 10 seconds slow mode. That's perfect. Look at that. Can we all take a moment to appreciate how much I've grown as a streamer? 2 streams ago, I didn't even know how to turn on slow mode. Now I'm making executive decisions like, hey, how about 10 seconds of slow mode? Gunvarrel says, thoughts on Robin maybe getting captured again? I mean, it was floated so many times over the course of the arc. I'm just like, maybe it'll happen again. I actually thought that it could, but then it just didn't. So, you know, it is what it is. I don't know if she gets captured again some point later in the series. It's hard to see if she gets captured. It's like, what's the purpose? Because we don't want to go down the same exact beats as any slobby. It's hard to stir up those same emotions the second time around. So if she gets captured, it would have to be like more of like a brief plot, you know, like plot necessity or something to get the ball rolling on something rather than go through that whole dramatic arc again. Tomahawk PWPT says, so far Usopp and Nami got literally no fights. They both took a really bad headbutt and ran away the whole time, only to get bailed out by a third party. I'm with you guys. Look, I think Usopp, Nami not even as much, but I feel like Usopp more than anyone really needed something this Wano arc, because down to he never was portrayed well over the course of the entire arc. Never was portrayed well over the course of the entire arc, and it was made more apparent and just more pathetic by the fact that like everyone around him and everyone that he's inserting himself into conversations with is acting so heroic and noble and everything. Like he's literally telling Nami, as Nami's going through that moment of like saying that Luffy will become king of the pirates, good moment, which in itself is a callback to the Usopp moment in Alabasta. Nami's moment is in itself a callback to the far better and more dramatic Usopp moment in Alabasta. But during this moment, Usopp's just saying, Nami, just lie. Just lie, it doesn't matter. And I'm normally cool with that stuff as long as Usopp gets his own redemption moment later on, right? Like, do whatever you want, say whatever you want, be a liar, blah, blah, blah. Be kind of cowardly, whatever, during the arc. But then there's a point we all expect where things turn around and he doesn't act like that and he gets his shine. So Usopp I'm particularly upset about. Because Usopp is low-key one of my favorite Straw Hats. He has arguably the best Straw Hat moments over the course of the entire series. Marcus Taylor says, so is Ryuma just Zoro's celebrity? Is Ryuma just Zoro's celebrity lookalike? Apparently. And so was the daimyo of Ringo. Apparently. Like, these are just people that look like Zoro that we don't need to learn anything further about. Ronnie says, break is because of the live action show. He has to go to South Africa. Nonetheless, I refuse to believe these chapters are real. It just can't be. Look, the chapters are real. The chapters are real. Some of you guys are higher on copium than I am. At this point, I'm not. What's the thing after copium? What? Okay, so the stages of accepting that the raid succeeded. So first was copium. We went through heavy doses of that for many streams and many weeks. But I didn't even realize it was copium at the time. At the time, I was just like, yeah, this all just seems like how it would naturally play out before the raid fails. Makes sense. 7 days later. Whoa. 7 days later. 7 days later. 7 days later. Nah, I must have misread something. So then I go back and like, okay, makes sense. And then they fit. No, we're back here at 7 days later. It's been a week. All right, some shenanigans are going on. All right, so what was the phase after that? I guess denial. So I went through the brief stages of denial. That was on my own lonesome. You guys didn't have to see none of that. So after copium, we have denial. After denial, what do we have? I don't know. The next 4 stages or whatever. But that's, yeah. I feel like some of you guys are still catching up to where I'm at. I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, what happened. And I have to go reread this whole Wano arc. Won't be fun. I'll have to reread fights that I hate. Big Mom Amnesia twice. Luffy beating Kaido without ever really struggling. I'll have to read the whole Wano arc. Maybe I have a new perspective at the end of it. We don't know. Kakashi Snitch 9 says, who are some of your favorite Chainsaw Man characters, Morb? Chainsaw Man, I mean, it punishes you for having favorite characters. Let's just say that. Chainsaw Man does not want you to love any of these characters. It punishes you hard for growing attached to characters. I mean, Makima, I think, is like my favorite shonen villain, period. Makima was great. I love Power. Denji's solid. By the end, I was on board with Denji. I think Power is actually low-key the funniest. She was the funniest character that I can recall in recent times from any series that I've read. Period. I think Chainsaw Man was low-key actually really, really, really funny. It just didn't focus on that. But Makima's great. Scholar H says, it felt like they raided on normal mode. Hard mode being the Beast Pirates getting awakening and the Big Mom Pirates joining in. I mean, I'm telling you, that's what I felt like the entire time. I literally never imagined that it could be that straightforward. But it is what it is. More Raid discussion says, read below the super chat number 2. All right, I will read carefully and slowly. Let's see if I can find you. Let me see if I can find you. I don't know where you are. Can someone just shout out his, like, repaste his comment for me? I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this like this. I'm already bad enough at finding certain comments. Also, chat scrolls by really fast, even though it's in slow mode. Roxas Vanitas1 says, the fight with Kaido lasted 50 chapters. Do you think Wano will be too long if he does get back up? No, because I think many of us can agree that it does feel like the ending went by a little fast, so I don't think it would be too long if he got back up. 10 says, Morge, can you elaborate why you dislike the third arc of Vinland? In my opinion, it was perfect to show Thorfinn's past catching up to him and challenging him on remaining true to his newfound philosophy of pacifism. The simplest way I can state it is that basically it made it feel as, okay, three major things. It's a lot of different things, right? So let me try and boil it down to stuff that makes it very simple. Number one, you can notice a very significant tone shift in Vinland Saga between pre-Chapter 100 and post-Chapter 100. Pre-Chapter 100, the way Vinland Saga was written tonally was just a lot more. It handled certain themes, right? So themes like war, slavery, things like that. It handled those as though those were things that were very, very. There's no. It wanted to treat those ideas as seriously and as with as much realism as possible, right? The third arc of Vinland Saga shat all over that in many, many ways. You had certain chapters where it treated it tonally seriously, but across the board, the tone for Vinland went out the window for the vast majority of the third arc, to the point that characters were characters that should never have been handled comedically or not even comedically, just ideas that should never have been handled like so offhandedly or brushed to the side, etc., were suddenly being treated in a drastically different matter than they were before, right? So thematically, it not only walked back or kind of shat on a lot of the themes that were set up previously, but more importantly than that, in terms of Thorfinn, yes, great idea in terms of like, okay, newfound philosophy, now challenge it, but the manner in which it challenged it seemed to actually shit all over Thorfinn's development previously, and seemed to suggest that he did not ever actually develop that much. He just seemed to have developed. Because the thing is that Thorfinn's development between Arc 1 and the prologue and the farm arc, right? I will go to the death arguing, not go to the death, it's not that dramatic, not go to the death, but I will happily argue, and I did at one point want to argue, that that was the best character arc I've ever read in manga, period. Between first arc, prologue arc, and farm arc. Best character arc that I'd ever read in a manga. Okay? Third arc neuters that heavily just for the sake of trying to create a story. It basically undercuts it heavily and actually goes to much more tired, cliched sort of character arc ideas that you see in millions of other stories, and basically turns Thorfinn's character, what we thought he had developed into something much less than that, just for the sake of padding out the story further and saying, no, he still has room to grow. When in reality, it's like the growth that we wanted to see from him, it was actually already perfectly done between that first arc to the end of that second arc. Those are the two things that I'll touch on right there. I could go into all the other characters and the way that they were written, but it's just not worth it right now. It probably deserves a longer video. Matthew Hunt says, will you ever do an analysis/video on Buggy? The spoilers make me want one from you. Buggy is just such a fun character. Probably not. I think Oda knows the purpose that he serves in the story, and I don't think that it, needs that much analysis. Supreme Pirate King says, I'm proud to announce that Akainu stocks have indeed gone back up. Yeah, depending on what you make of the new spoilers, and like, I'm not going to talk too much about that, but you could say, yeah, does seem like that. Young Midoriya says, can you give your Momonosuke theory? That'll be another video. Because it's something that can happen, but I think maybe it'll be something I drop during the break, or maybe towards the very end of Wano. Nerve AMV Maker says, since Wano One Piece yearly sales fell 30%, do you think those sales will go up once Wano is over, or do you think they will continue to fall? There's a possibility that, the sales might pick up with people trying to buy back Wano stuff, but like the other things that you've heard, and again, we only hear it from random news sources and stuff like that, or rumors, is that the Japanese are not super fond of Wano. So maybe the sales rocket up once we're out of Wano because people are like, okay, now let me buy the whole thing. Arthur and I were talking about that, I think, in Roger's Base's stream, and Arthur seemed to suggest that'll be the case. I have no idea. All I can say is that I think it's pretty interesting that a lot of criticisms that people tend to level at Wano, like this is strange storytelling, is often countered by a lot of people you see online, saying that like, well, that's because you're looking at it from a Western perspective. You need to appreciate that this and this has meaning in Eastern writing or Eastern storytelling or something. It's like, okay, well then why is it that Wano's sales are fucking through the through the floor and no one's buying this shit? If it's so special and perfect in Eastern storytelling, which, by the way, is generally not going to be that... I could go on a rant about that in terms of like the shit people make up about Western versus Eastern storytelling, and there's certain tropes and things like that, or sources or allegories and things that you can draw upon that are different. But that's not the same. Like, the fundamentals of storytelling are always the same. They're always the same. And you can... No point going off in that here, but I just think it's funny that a lot of things that people criticize about Wano are then waved away as being like, well, from an Eastern perspective, this is actually perfect writing. And then you go look at what's happening with people with the Eastern perspective, and they're not fucking buying this shit at all. So, I don't know. Old Green Knee says, bro, no spoilers, but we're still in Act 3. No Cope Morge. I believe in it, and spoilers not arguing. I got nothing to say. Ivan back from the card shop says, need to know what I hope that you are correct, but I can't see a way. Ivan back from the card shop says, need to know what happened in the time skip break to just kill Oda's writing quality. Also, I like chaos as a mod. I vote no slow mode. Well, I did the compromise, so don't even worry about that. Aztec Device says, even though Wano didn't finish how I expected, I'm excited for what's next. We will likely get answers to all the big questions soon. Laughtail, Shanks, and Luffy, Joyboy, and Void Sentry also mod me. Everyone wants to be a mod now. Nebson says, rant stream on Patreon. I mean, you can definitely join my Patreon where I give more unfiltered thoughts each chapter, that's for sure. But if you guys want like a full breakdown of what I personally did not enjoy about Wano, right, and my personal critiques of Wano, I can promise you there's already a thick draft, but I'm going to reread the full thing first. I'm going to do a full objective analysis first, and then I will put that out. The only thing I'm trying to figure out is, like, do I wait for the break to do it, or do I wait till after the break when I've, like, Wano's officially closed, I can reread the whole thing, you know, be fair. Does Yamato get her character arc wrapped or something like that? Like, I do, unfortunately, I feel like I do have to wait on some stuff. Kushin Makurji says, who wins, Awakened Rikogyu versus Gaimon with Pesticide? Cushion, you're fired. 8 Gates Production says, have you lost faith in Oda / One Piece? I like to believe that, no, but it's hard to explain. So, like, let's say this. Before, I would say I was 100% or at least 95% certain that barring some, like, random unforeseen circumstance, like Oda bumps his head into something and goes crazy, that the ending of One Piece would be the greatest manga or story ending that I'll ever see. I was 100%, 95, somewhere between 90 to 100% sure on that. And I was really, really looking forward to it. I would say now, it probably still has the potential to be, but I'm not going to be like, I have faith in Oda in the sense that, like, I believe that he can still do it, and that could still end up being the case for me, like my favorite storytelling ending. I have faith in Oda in that sense, that I believe that he can still do it, but I'm no longer like, oh yeah, I would bet my life savings on it, you know? So that's where I'm at. He's taking a month break. That'll be good for reorganizing ideas going forward. Grizzly Adam says, as a Zoro fan who never believed ZKK, seeing Luffy get compared to Ryuma by the people of Wano instead of Zoro makes me genuinely sad. Dude, the Zoro Ryuma parts, it's just baffling, because it's like, yeah, Luffy is the parallel to Ryuma all along was Luffy. It was just Luffy. Mohamed Sadeghi says, Morge, are the spoilers trustworthy? I mean, TCB told me, what am I allowed to say? What am I allowed to say? What am I allowed to say? Okay, I'm allowed to say what's on Reddit. Okay, I'm allowed to talk about the Buggy Emperor thing. It's nearly a confirmed thing, he says. But I don't know what that means. Then there's one really big thing that's not mentioned in the general spoilers, unless maybe it's already out on Reddit. Maybe it's just easiest if I don't check this. Okay, I'm just going to say the spoilers seem trustworthy so far, at least according to TCB. So far, the last couple chapters, I'll say this, when TCB tells me something, it has always been in the actual chapter. So that's all I got for you guys. Groovy Zeno says, but here he said Buggy being an emperor is nearly confirmed. I don't really know what that means. Jordan Johnson says, I enjoyed Wano, but Oda definitely put too much dip on his chip with this one. I'm not a ZKK dude, but a lot of Zoro content did get cut, in my opinion. Yeah, you cannot believe in ZKK. It's two different things. That's why ZKK messed up it messed up so much Wano discussion. You could say the raid failing did as well. Whatever. Maybe that's a valid discussion to have. But let's talk about just ZKK, which is that if you want to talk about Zoro's arc not being, him not having a fulfilled arc, you can no longer talk about that without the assumption being, well, you want him to kill Kaido. I was never for ZKK. I put out videos saying Zoro's not going to kill Kaido, right? I was never for ZKK. That's a totally different discussion from the fact that Zoro's arc from Act 1 to Act 3 makes no sense whatsoever. And in fact, you couldn't call it an arc. It's literally like somebody took Act 2, decided to ignore everything that happened in Act 2, and just make up some random other scene for him to have with King in Act 3 that had nothing to do with anything. It's kind of bizarre. Groovy Zeno says, do you think the Alliance found King's BDSM room while on Onigashima? Queen called him a torture-loving pervert. I'm sure they found some particularly strange stuff while going through the King and Queen's, rooms. Thomas Kaz says, honoring Izzo and Ashura juxtaposed to Yamato's boobs. That's just the way it goes in One Piece, man. Nebson says, how likely do you think it is that Oda actually planned for the raid to fail but changed his mind? Anything I say here will just sound like me, it'll just make me sound like I'm being really, really wishful. So I got nothing to say on that. Keenan says, can't wait to see the Thousand Sunnies Club Utterman. Knowing Frankie, it'll definitely have one. I mean, I hope so. It feels a little weird, maybe just because we've had Sunny longer. It feels like they had more travel time logged on it. I think that might be correct. Because the Sunny, they traveled from Water 7 to Thriller Bark, and Thriller Bark to Saboti, fought some pirates along the way. Then from Saboti to Fishman Island to Punkhat. They've done a decent amount of traveling on the Sunny. It just feels for some reason like they had more time with the Merry. Maybe there were more scenes with the Merry. Maybe there was more travel time more islands they went to between on Merry. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back. It feels like I believe that the Thousand Sunny should have a Club Ultraman by the end. I don't think it'd be bad if it didn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did, and I kind of assume it will. But I think we need a little bit more. Joao Jr. says, Morge really said Power is funnier than Kobeni. Power is fucking hilarious. Power is... Her scene with Kobeni and her in the car, it's funny because of Power. It's funnier because of Power. Kobeni's funny, but, Power's way funnier. Caleb Brown says, are you going to discuss spoilers again, Morji Poo? Kinda. Last time, it was impossible to avoid talking about the spoilers because it's just, that time was, that was basically just, wait, what? Did I spoil people too bad now with the... Oh, no. Was it... Okay. All right. I don't know if I spoiled people too bad with the buggy thing. I just assumed that was common knowledge. All right, we'll wait a minute. Maybe I won't say anything more about 1053 then in that case. Stormfox says, when are you going to do a video about you being wrong about the raid failing that you promised us? Probably when I do the videos in general. Like, that'll come with, in general, not the Wano Arc Analysis, but the following video I'm discussing my review of the arc, pretty much. That'll go hand in hand. Bryce Duvall says, the fight lasted long enough. The end of every arc feels rushed. It's nothing new. Ideas seem abandoned because it is set up for future arcs. Mr. Crescent says, how much do we have to pay you to write a raid-failing fanfic? Can't believe Oda Togashi'd Wano to get to the final saga. Wish we got more out of this arc. I definitely can't do anything like that. Leo Recto says, that'll make me look so bad. Leo Recto says, just want to say, even though Usopp and Nami did not have much spotlight, at least she got a great Bellemere parallel where she risked dying rather than lying. I don't even, like, yeah, you can say that, but it's just like, that's just like a random moment, you know what I mean? Like, she didn't really get across 150 chapters, she didn't really get any story. Like, she got a good moment, but not really a story. And the sad thing is, like, that moment, it is, like, you can say it's a Bellemere parallel, which is true, but at the same time, it's also clearly a callback to the Usopp moment in Alabasta. And that like, it's unfortunate because that Usopp scene is so much better because it's built around telling a story and the conclusion to that story, which is basically Usopp having that moment, versus the Nami moment, which is like a one-off and somewhat of an imitation, basically, of the previous Usopp moment. Isaiah Damon says, not sure if this is relevant, but during Big Mom's backstory, she had to fast for 7 days, then rampaged. Oh, that's interesting, but it also doesn't really mean, that much. The Pirate Hero says, LMAO, bro, you just spoiled the whole stream with the buggy thing. Yeah, that's what I was seeing when I said. And Hamda Jaled says, more G reading spoilers legit ruins the stream. All right, no more spoilers discussion in that case. Tala Jahan says, Reddit and Twitter have been having a field day with you lately. I don't even know about Reddit. I don't go to the One Piece Reddit unless somebody tags me. So I don't know about the Reddit, but I've been seeing Twitter. And Twitter has not been good. Defending back as best as I can, Lord Morgius. Send more troops, need help. I say just ride it out. Star Bright says, yo, Morge, with One Piece taking a break, now's the perfect chance to start Stormlight if you plan to. I'd love your thoughts on it. It reminds me a lot of One Piece. Yeah, that's like I did plan to, like, read that during the summer. That was, like, a thing. I was like, I'll read that series during the summer or something like that. But at the moment, I think I do want to try branching into other series right now because it feels right, because One Piece is about to go on a break, so it feels like the timing just kind of lined up. So I don't know if I've got time for the Stormlight Archive, because those are some thick books. I'll see what I can fit in. Supreme Pirate King says, I wonder if Wano not selling well put pressure on Oda to end the arc quickly from the higher-ups. Only justification I can think of. Look, man, there's all sorts of things we can hypothesize, but at the end of the day, what matters is what happened. What happened is that the arc ended. Morge Raid Discussion says, read below the super chat number 3. For fuck's sake, Morge, it was below. Do you know how hard it is? I'm trying... Do you know how hard it is? Because, like, by the time I get to that chat, it's already, the actual chat has scrolled way, way, way past. So it's scrolled way, way, way past. So I'm trying to scroll below, but it's, like, nowhere close to, you don't understand what I'm looking at. Are you sure that you can't just, can one of the mods please just call out what is, okay, I'm looking at the stuff you said. Morge Raid Discussion says Morge is the best. I'm sure that that's not what you were trying to say. Morge Raid Discussion says common knowledge. These are all comments you're saying that are not Morge Raid Discussion says LMAO. What am I looking for? How am I supposed to find this? I don't know. I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do. I don't know what the solution to this is. Just don't super chat again. Don't super chat again. Mods, please, someone, when you see more raid discussions, just shout out what his comment is. Glizok Intern says, I'm dropping One Piece if Green Bull comes out as Zoro's dad. No comment. Jordan Johnson says, do you think Wano will be redeemed by future arcs, kind of like how Skypiea got more popular among the fan base with future content? It just depends what you're looking for in Wano. Because, like, in Skypiea, when I first read Skypiea, it felt like such a divergence from the rest of the series. Now I can appreciate it as a side story, right? So I'm not expecting certain things out of it. It's just a side adventure where they happen to do some cool stuff and learn some cool stuff. And, there's some fights and stuff that happen along the way. Wano, I think no matter what, the way it's framed in the narrative is the big climax to this long running buildup, right? Long running buildup that we've been getting. I don't really know how to say, it's a climax to such a long buildup. I really don't know if it makes sense for how do I say? Yeah, like for it to get better with reread, I guess, basically. Because either the climax hit for you or it didn't. I don't think context can really add to how much you felt from that. Sal Borghini says, Robin missing this chapter is proof enough that the raid will fail. I guess if that's proof enough for you. Wakito de Sierp says, look up the story of Loki versus Balor the Giant. He wins using a slingshot in the end. Could be Usopp Elbaf's story. Yeah, it could be cool. Gandalf the Black says, you might like Brandon Sanderson books more. I think I will. From everything everybody has told me about them, I think I really will like those books. It's just they're long, right? You got to take some time to get into them. Nathan Witherell, I think you forgot to chat, but thanks. I appreciate the support. Ivan back from the card shop says, when do you wish you had given up on the raid fail? In full hindsight, in full hindsight, it's like, there was no clear point. Like, to me, everything made sense, basically, going over the course of the raid. Because certain elements that I normally expect from, not even expect, but certain elements that are very, very common from Oda's writing for final battles, those elements were all missing throughout the raid. So as long as those elements were missing, I was like, and he was writing in a certain very different way, tonally, the way he's writing the fights, the way he's writing the characters, what he's choosing to focus on. And plus the hanging plot threads, that's another whole discussion, basically. But across the board, I think that, like, when I wish I would have given up on it, like, it's hard to say because it's like, over the course of it, I was never really given a reason in my head that, like, okay, it seems like this is the final battle, because it was never written the way that Oda similarly writes other final battles. So I was always like, okay, this is like the setup for something more. However, I do think at the end of the day, if I wish I'd given up on the raid failing, like, either not having the idea in the beginning or not giving up on it, I guess. Because, like, if I assumed that this was the final battle all along, then I think I would have had a lot of trouble, like, enjoying this arc, because, like, I didn't enjoy this as a final battle. So it would have been easier. It's just hard to say. It's like, save me a headache if I had not believed that from the start, but enjoyment of the arc would have been much lower in general if I had just assumed from the beginning that this was the final battle. Tittle TT says, what are the chances Oda skips the ending banquet? I don't think he's going to skip the ending banquet, man. I think Luffy literally hyped up the biggest party that they're ever going to have. Thomas Cass says, Green Bull will, I shit you not, turn himself into a pickle. He's Pickle Green Bull. Yeah, that would be fun to see. I could say some stuff about Rick and Morty right now too, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole either. Hugh Space Jazz says, Mr. Morge, I hate you for predicting and making the raid fail theory popular. You should have known Oda was a long-time subscriber and had to change the story because you perfectly predicted it. Shake my head. It would be nice if that's what happened. Gigatronma says, well, now that the raid succeeded, what were those theories you had after the hypothetical failure? I think that's something fun to explore. Like, I discussed this a little bit earlier. Like, I talked about, like, future matchups that could happen, things like that. I think that's something fun to explore in a separate video. You know, like a separate video where I discuss basically, like, here are reasons, like, here are things that I had personally assumed might happen if the raid failed. So, like, new matchups, stuff like that. The Pirate here says, super chat from Caleb Brown. Sanji got more character development than Zoro this arc. Yeah, I would agree. I think definitely more than Zoro, because Zoro basically got none. You can count his king fight. The development he got in his king fight was just bizarre, because it's like, I like the king fight even as a final battle. I was like, I think the king fight was cool, but it was just strange because how do I say this? Like, it was strange purely because, like, the lesson is essentially what he had to learn or realize was that he needed to fight more recklessly and more essentially all out and just like put his life on the line, like at least as much hockey as possible, whatever, right? Just don't care if you're going to live or die, just go all in. But the thing is, like, that's never made sense as a development for Zoro, because Zoro's always been like that. Like, from day one, like, it's like writing in something that was holding him back. That is the one thing that we kind of just always assumed that he had down. You know what I mean? It never really made sense that this is an area that he needs to develop in necessarily, right? Like, in general, for example, like, if you go back to the Mr. One fight, I think that even that, like, the message that Oda's trying to say there for Zoro as a swordsman, even that could have been done a little more clearly. But it made sense in that Zoro at that time, like, what's he doing? He's going very aggressive, very forceful, throwing all of his strongest moves at Mr. One, going all in, going all out. He's thinking to himself, like, what do I need to do to improve? Why can't I cut steel? Why am I not strong enough? It's because I'm not training hard enough. It's because I'm not attacking hard enough. Doesn't matter. I have to go all out. I'll get to the point where I can cut steel, right? And then the flashback he had kind of undercut that, in that it's more so like, it's the opposite in terms of the mentality that he currently has. It's the opposite in that mentality that is more so like, have you thought about a sword that cuts nothing, right? You're trying to think like, how can I cut this? How can I cut everything? Have you considered like a different mental approach, right? So the lesson that his sensei gives is so different to where Zoro's mindset is at that moment during the Mr. One fight. It's like a jarringly different, flashback to what the current scene is, which is why I think that Mr. One flashback, it felt more fitting when Zoro, he comes out of that flashback and he's in a totally different sort of zen, calm state, and then he just cuts Mr. One and finishes him, right? So it does feel like he had a turning point or had a step forward in his way of thinking as a swordsman. That being said, obviously that's not something that we saw really continue or stick with him going forward. It's not really referenced again, this idea. But I will say that with the King fight, it's just a little strange to me because it's just not... I think it's a solid fight, and I do like the King fight, and it's probably my second favorite Zoro fight in the series, I think. I'm just saying that, like, one, it has nothing to do with any of Zoro's storyline in Act 2, so all of Act 2 is basically for nothing. And two, it's just like, the growth that he had during that fight just doesn't really make sense, because we've never thought of Zoro as a character who does anything less than go all out and recklessly put his life on the line at all times. Like, other characters have even commented and talked about this quality of his, that he's just recklessly... Like, he's such a reckless character. He sustains so many injuries, and he's always near death, all of that sort of thing. So it just doesn't make sense as a development for him in that context, to me. Now, for Sanji having more development than Zoro in that arc, in the Wano arc, I would agree, yes, but a lot of this was the groundwork for that was already done in Whole Cake Island. It's mostly all of Whole Cake Island's writing that's now coming into play a little bit in Wano to kind of get a closure to it. But I'd say the majority of Sanji's arc and his thoughts and realizations happened in the previous arc. Maddie Sun says, how come Green Bull waited till after Kaido was defeated to go to his hometown? Why didn't him and Fuji try to liberate Wano themselves? I can't imagine Sakazuki being too scared to fight. Well, because it's like, if it's how many resources can the Marines commit, right? Like, you got to remember, the Marines don't just have to worry about, the New World. They've got to control the entire ocean. So the New World, the Grand Line, Four Blues, everything, right? So that's why it was such a big deal for them to assemble all of their forces to face Whitebeard and Marineford, because, you're concentrate. You've got the biggest army in the world, right? But you use it to control the whole world. So drawing it all together is like, that's just like an extreme case scenario. So the Marines generally just have more to risk, and they can't allocate resources as freely. So they could be like, okay, let's just go to war with Kaido and Big Mom, send the strongest Marines, admirals, etc. over there, and sure, let's say they win, but like, how much damage is done there? What does that mean? What can Blackbeard do now? Things like that. Like, what can the revolutionaries do now? It's just a big gamble. It's like a very risky thing to do. Not necessarily scared to fight, I suppose, but just like, it's not a guaranteed outcome necessarily, and like the consequences could be broader than just winning that fight. That's how I justified mentally. The Pirate Hero says, Super Chat from Tittle TTs. If Kaido gets back up and creates a new Onigashima like he wanted to, it's possible Oda considers it a separate arc since Wano would no longer be Wano. Look, man, to me it's just like, it's been 7 days. Why would he split it over 7 days? I just don't get why he would split it over 7 days. There's no reason that makes sense to me. The Pirate Hero says, Super Chat, part 102. Do you think there are any similarities with Yamato fasting until her wish for Luffy to get better came true, and maybe Green Bull fasting for 3 years too? Yeah, there might be some similarities there. I think like people talked about that. That's like a acknowledged little parallel or whatever. I definitely think that there could be something there. So far, fasting has been a regular theme among a lot of the samurai folk, so potentially Green Bull having some relation to that, being a former samurai or something of Wano. Part here says, maybe wishing for something too. Yeah, maybe Green Bull is wishing for something, potentially an interesting character. Sausage Lord says, did the Toby Roppo just vanish into thin air? I don't know, man. They probably threw him in some jail, like Udon or something. Dillionaire says, spoiler about Green Bull / Zoro we don't know? No comment. Pirate Hero says, Super Chat from Aztec Device. Porge, pivot to Berserk. What do you think Guts' reaction will be to seeing the Moonlight Boy turn into Griffith? So here's the tricky thing, right? It's impossible to... Okay, continued from Aztec Device. Berserk won't end in failure. Casca will kill the God Hand. Femto, get the fuck out. All right, I don't know about any of that, but... Look, if anything, Berserk is... I have high hopes for Berserk. How do I say this? I would very, very much like Berserk to return to its former glory. You can talk about, like, if you think Oda has fallen off or whatever. You can talk about all that if you like. Right? Berserk is very literally being written by a guy that is not Miura. Totally different author is picking up this series now. So, like, I would love if Berserk is 10 out of 10, continues to be 10 out of 10. I would love if that's the case. But, guys, please understand, if you're, like, down on One Piece right now, and you're like, well, Berserk's coming back, so I'm hyped about Berserk, there is less of a chance that Berserk continues to maintain its quality than One Piece continues to maintain its quality. By far. Because it's literally not the same guy. It's being picked up by a different author. I don't think it can be stressed enough how significant that is for a series like Berserk, where so much of what makes it really good isn't necessarily even the broader story strokes and broader plotting, right? Even though that's good. That's very good. It's not even, like, most of what makes Berserk good, or I'd say like a solid percentage of what makes Berserk good, is the chapter-to-chapter dialogue, right? Chapter-to-chapter nuances in the writing. It's a totally different, like, I think it's much harder to swap authors for Berserk than it is for pretty much any other series that I personally follow, because of how much comes from purely dialogue and purely more subtle, nuanced character interactions that are happening chapter to chapter, which is once you're getting to like that type of micro level aspects of a series that are making it really good, it becomes much harder for a series to maintain a certain quality than just looking at like, I'll be honest, like One Piece, I think like so much of what we look forward to in One Piece is a lot of the bigger events and like where's all of the larger scale macro plotting and all of these events going to play out into. What's the secret behind this? What's the conclusion to this going to be? Things like that. We want to know the big things, right? And I think with One Piece, we very often are not as scrutinizing or critical of like chapter to chapter dialogue, things like that. With Berserk, I'd say it's the opposite, where really you need like every single chapter. There's a lot of intricacy and detail that goes into writing a single, particularly earlier in Berserk, writing a single chapter that makes that single chapter really, really, really memorable or strong for the series. So with Berserk, it's like, for me, it's a case where like, I'm happy it's back. I want to do content on it. I'm excited for it being back, and I really, really hope that it's going to be good. But I would temper my expectations for Berserk way more than for One Piece. Roxas Vanitas 1 says, did Kaido / Big Mom just not have awakenings? I don't know how many times this stream I can just say, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I'll just say that Big Mom, if she had an awakening, we know she didn't fucking show it because the abilities that she used, which is granting life to other things, she used that right away when she first got her devil fruit. So from the moment that Big Mom got her devil fruit as a child, you could see her in that same chapter already bringing life to things around her. So that ability is not awakening. The abilities that Big Mom has shown, Napoleon, Zeus, Hera, things like that, Prometheus, those are not her awakening. So whatever her awakening was, maybe you could headcanon her eating her own lifespan to get stronger. Maybe that was her awakening, if you want to throw in some headcanon. Kaido, if you want headcanon to fill something in, maybe it's the burning dragon form. Remix King says, Morge, why don't you have one mod constantly send you a list of every super chat via Twitter DM so you don't lose them / you track of them? That would be such a pain in the ass for the mods to do. Plus, there's another tab open that I can see all of the super chats. Once I'm looking at that tab, it becomes harder for me to track the normal chat. One second. Sausage Lord says, thoughts on Usopp being trash. I would say that that's low-key one of my most disappointing aspects of the entire arc. Maybe he can get some major redemption in Elbaf, but as it is right now, that's probably my one of my most disappointing points of the arc. Name says, Morb, are you going to do a spoiler stream again at the end? I don't think so. Last time it was more important to do that, I think, just because people have already complained about me mentioning spoilers here. I don't want to do that any further. And last time it was more so just because, like, so many people knew the spoilers and wanted to talk about, like, look, it's been 7 days. The raid factually succeeded. So, like, it was just the culmination of so much discussion and theory and everything like that. It was just hard to avoid. It was like, okay, let's have a spoilers discussion at the end of this. This chapter, I think we can go, a few more days without discussing what happens in 1053. Bill says, we know Oda has a lot of panels in mind he wants to draw himself. Maybe him seeing Miura dying before getting to finish his life's work made Oda want to at least finish his by dropping plot points. I don't know if Oda works like that. But how can we even guess how Oda works or whatever? I think that Oda, in my experience, it's kind of crazy just because from what I've seen, like, Oda likes taking his time on a lot of things, right? If you remember, like, Whole Cake Island, most people initially thought Whole Cake Island would be 40, maybe 50 chapters. That was the estimate that most people had initially going into Whole Cake Island. Turned out that he went all the way to chapter 900. In general, I think Dressrosa people didn't expect to be that long. So far, it seems as though Oda's really been taking his time. Wano is the first arc that it feels like he maybe didn't want to do that. Testimony, Olu Watobi says, you had the confidence to stand by what you believed in when the whole community was against you. Super respect to you for that, man. All right, thanks. I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, it would have been nicer to be right. Talha Jahan says, people who say that Zoro is head and shoulders above other crewmates as the number 2 and deuteragonist got debunked by Oda and Wano. He is definitely the number 2 of the story, but clearly that's not that important to Oda. Yeah, I don't even want to discuss this point because it's like this whole thing with like how Zoro went in Wano. It was just because down to small things like we're ending the arc with them talking about Joy Boy and Ryuma. Like this is like the second coming of Ryuma basically, and it's like, well, Ryuma's the parallel to Zoro, right? Like it's just like, and like small things like Luffy and Zoro both end the arc, asleep. They sleep for 7 days. They wake up together, and that's like the moment everyone's looking forward to. It's like in so many small ways, it feels as though Zoro's being framed or set up to be very important this arc in a way that he wasn't before. But then at the same time, at the end of the day, it's like, what did Zoro really do? Well, he beat King, which is expected. Sanji beat Queen, expected. It's like nothing similar to taking down a Yonko or taking down Kaido's 1v1 and things like that. Emerdorf says, do you read Blue Lock? Happy to see your thoughts. Is Blue Lock the soccer one? If it's the soccer one, I'm sorry, but I'll never read it. Glizok intern says, to be honest, the raid did fail. It came out mid compared to other arcs. Also, Green Bull being Zoro's dad doesn't make sense, like Ace being in Wano. Ace being in Wano, I think, does make sense. Or does it conflict with, I forget, does it conflict with any arc? Does it conflict with something? Does it conflict with his novels or something? I don't actually know. If the raid failed to you, then, that's your opinion. OHNS says, don't fall into the trap of using falling sales to judge reception of Wano Arc. Total sales have been declining consistently since 2011. Okay, but like, could I look at, how do I say this? Is like, you know what? I should probably just have the sales figures in front of me before I say anything like that. Before I say anything about what I'm going to say. But look, like the simple fact is theoretically, that would just mean that like overall people have been losing interest in the New World bit by bit, and Wano is just a continuation of that rather than actually living up to expectations, right? If sales have been declining, they always reflect something. Always reflect something. So just because you're saying, well, the sales for, I don't know, Dressrosa were also low, that doesn't mean that Wano is being poorly received. It's like, no, that probably means that Dressrosa was also poorly received, and Wano is also continuing to be poorly received. So I don't really know what the argument for that necessarily is. Like, the fact is that so far in One Piece, any time that there's been a storyline that we as the fandom genuinely consider to be an all-time great storyline, it has spiked One Piece's sales. So the first time that happened was with Enies Lobby. Enies Lobby was the arc that spiked One Piece to be continually at the number one spot, basically, in terms of manga sales. So that first saga, which is the first time that we can all be like, yeah, that was the first truly, truly great One Piece arc in most people's opinions, that naturally had a reflection in the sales, in terms of the sales relatively increasing to what they were at any point before. And then Marineford did that, but just again, and on a bigger scale, with it increasing the sales to be relatively higher than anything before. So you would expect if Wano is the arc that is the payoff to such a long, long, long running New World storyline, everything has been building up to Wano, this is supposed to be the greatest One Piece storyline, you would expect at least a similar jump. Maybe not back to Marineford levels, but at least it would raise it up from whatever it was before. If it's been going down with Whole Cake and Dressrosa, you would expect that Wano, as the giant payoff, would at least show some sort of an uptick in sales. I don't think that that's crazy to suggest, especially because the myth that manga sales in general have been declining has been like basically proven to be false. Mad D Sun says, I meant a solo mission of only Fuji and Green Bull. I get what you're saying, but even if worst case scenario, if they died, they still have 3 other admirals, Garps, SSG, basically pre-time skip Marines. Well, they don't, right? Because Akiji's gone, Sengoku and Garp are retired. It's not quite the same. I don't think 2 admirals would just like come in swinging and try and free Wano themselves. Darkwan Jr. says, hey, Mr. Morji, have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once? It's really good. No, but everybody's been saying that I should see it. Maybe I will at some point. Ivan back from the card shop says, imagine JoJo's with a new author. JoJo's is a series that literally could never be replaced with another author. It makes, because Araki's brain is just this weird person's brain. Like, there's just not, like, you can't even fake JoJo style writing because it's just so random and weird. Shiv Patel says, there are parts of Wano and the New World that I enjoyed, but I can't say with confidence anymore if the second half of One Piece is worth reading. Thoughts, question mark. I mean, I am just going to look forward to the future arcs and just basically say that, like, I think at the moment, sure, maybe, I think the bigger thing with Wano is that this is the culmination of so many New World arcs, so it's like, knowing that the payoff is, for me, not as strong as, like, I would have loved to see, just based on how Oda has written past arcs, knowing that the payoff is not quite to how I have enjoyed past arcs, it's harder for me to like really recommend. Yeah, it's hard. The whole second half of One Piece becomes a little rougher for me to think about, basically. But if the following stuff is really good, who knows? Thomas Cass says, any JoJo Part 9 predictions? Another female MC, please. I'm interested in knowing if this is the final JoJo's or not. I would love to, because the final, if he says it's the, I was personally a little I'm not going to say a little. This is just turning into a very, let's see, I've talked shit about Vinland, One Piece, obviously. I've put a downer on Berserk hopes and expectations a little bit, probably. I'm about to say something bad about Jojolian again. I'll just say it. Jojolian was, like, not good. And I think it stands out as particularly not good because, to me, because it's... the genre Araki chose was pretty much the worst possible, which was mystery, right? Like, and he is the last author that should ever be writing a mystery because mystery novels, right? I'm a big mystery reader. I've probably read more of that genre than any other genre, all right? So I love mystery. I love mystery books, okay? I love mystery fiction. It's part of the reason I love the current Hunter x Hunter arc quite a bit, because it's the perfect setting, I think, for an arc that I would love. Jojo Leon, he set up an arc that hinges on mystery, and he's the last author that should be writing something around mystery, because he's an author that very, 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 very clearly and blatantly does not plan that much ahead. He clearly has certain parts planned. I think a lot of JoJo fans take this the wrong way, as being like, oh, you think Araki, that like you can clearly see that like he didn't forget this or he didn't forget that, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying if he forgot certain things or not, right? I'm saying, is he the type of author that has a clear framework thought out for the entire story piece by piece from the beginning? No. I think you can clearly point to Jojo Leon and say, actually, I'll make the case that he did have lots of bits of the ending and how he wanted to close it planned out, but I don't think he had most of the framework of the story planned out, okay? And I can say a lot about the theming of Jojo Leon. There's a full analysis, actually, I want to do on that, because to me, this is a classic case of an author having, like, clear ideas of what he think will be good, and a lot of it draws off a Steel Ball Run, and actually there's so many beats of Jojo Leon just attempt to copy and replicate what Steel Ball Run did, but with much poorer foundation. So overall, I just say that, like, in terms of how he handled the themes of the arc, and when he chose to start really going ham on them, which was very poorly timed, the beats that he chose to create a dramatic finale, which were poorly stolen from Steel Ball Run, and finally, just, like, the handling of a lot of, like, of just setting up mysteries and thinking of creative ways to pay it off. Those three things, like, I think that, like, Jojo Leon was a huge disappointment for me in the end. Parts of it were really fun and engaging to read. Earlier sections and the middle sections, but overall, I'd say that, like, it took away a lot of hope for me for Part 9. I think that if Part 9 turns out to be the last JoJo, then I'll be very excited to read it, because I like to believe that Araki would have a tremendous amount of things, like, that's the final push. That's where he would dump all of his ideas and everything else that he's been holding back into it. But if it's just another JoJo's part, I don't know how great it'll be necessarily. Blue says, what is your opinion on Zoro's death not leading to anything? Do you think it was played up too much, i.e. the Reaper? Look, I mean, like, that's another just bizarre point of it. That's just a bizarre point of, like, one of many. It's a bizarre point. One of many different bizarre points, but does seem like a bizarre point to me. I do think that you can go through many, many other things in the Wano arc before getting to that. Like, if I were to do a full video, like, reviewing what I like, dislike about the Wano arc, I don't know if I'd even make it to that point, because it's, like, particularly strange thing, but then so are so many other strange things. Like, I think you could talk about, like, Zunisha just showing up and then leaving. I mean, but that's not even that strange. Like, a lot of different small things basically kind of add up. But that, yeah, I would agree. Gunter says, thoughts on the latest One Punch Man? I like the latest One Punch, and some positivity. I like the latest One Punch Man. I understand a lot of people who are very disappointed with the deviations from the webcomic, but I think with what the direction of Garo's character was basically heading towards, and kind of the way that it had been set up so far, it just could never be the webcomic version necessarily. Clearly, they neutered some of the ideas for a broader audience. So with the direction that Garo's arc ended up, to me, I like the latest One Punch Man chapter and, like, latest developments quite a bit, because I think they played a lot on readers' expectations with putting out that initial version of the chapter, which was very, very, very disappointing, and then rewriting it and redoing it and being like, actually, this is the way the final battle is going to play out. Too bad we're not going to get that in One Piece, but, you know. Alfred Letts says, underrated factor in decreased emotional investment in the New World is the busy paneling. The pre-time skip, minimalistic close-ups give time to focus on emotions. I would definitely agree. Nathan Witherill says, Morge, you make logical points with the raid failing, but you forgot Oda goes above and beyond. Why wouldn't he make the tragedy happen during the party? I don't know, man. I don't think it'll happen during the party. I would love to be proven wrong. Absolutely love to be proven wrong. But, what do you call? I don't think, like, having it happen 7 days later, I just don't know. Sweaty Gamer says, can we really call an arc that is 10 chapters shorter than Thriller Bark, Saboti, Amazon Lily, Impel Down, Marineford, and Post-War not taking its time? not taking its time? Oh, well, it's just because I get what you're saying. You're saying that, like, well, all of those added up together are still only about the length of the Wano arc. No, it's about taking its time relative to the story you've set up. Because you can be like, Wano's 150 chapters. Doesn't that mean that, like, he really, really took his time? And, like, well, in that case, you could say that, well, what if One Piece ended 10 chapters from now? Right? Let's say the whole series ended 10 chapters from now. I could say, well, the whole series was 1,060 chapters, right? It's over 1,000 chapters. How can you ever say that Oda didn't take his time writing One Piece? It's like, yeah, but relative to how much story was built up, clearly he rushed the ending in that case, right? So it's not like, obviously, objectively, the arc is like longer than previous arcs, but it's not about if it's longer than previous arcs. It's like within the framework of the story itself that it's set up, right? Did it let its story play out to the fullest in the same manner that other arcs have, right? Or does it feel as though the story is incomplete in a way that other arcs are maybe not, or maybe more complete? You know what I'm saying? It's all relative. Simpler way to put it is this. Wano and Dressrosa have the same exact plot, okay? So Wano and Dressrosa, same exact plot, which is they arrive at an island. They find out that there's going to be a raid to take out the ruler who has taken over the island, right? And they're going to free the island from the rule of this ruler, okay? Same thing, alliance, Luffy, law, blah, 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 okay? Same exact plot, essentially. And, you know, we meet similar characters like Kiros, head of the rebellion. You could argue, like, you know, we've got the samurai, Kinemon, etc. at the end of the head of the rebellion. They team up with the Straw Hats and everything like that. They make friends, learn a bit about the plight of the people, you know, etc. And then, you know, they try and do this raid, basically to take out Doflamingo. Spirals into this big battle, and then basically over the course of the battle, they take out all the officers, and then, you know, they win. Okay, same exact plot. Difference is that Dressrosa takes place in one day, right? And it's 100 chapters. Wano takes place over 2 weeks, has like 4 times the number of characters, right? Much higher stakes in theory, so multiple Yonko, right? Much bigger armies and stuff at play here. But it only takes place in 150 chapters. So think about that. You have the same exact plotline going on, but like Dressrosa's is the miniature version, and it does all basically take place in one day. Like they get to the island, find out about this planned rebellion or whatever. They get involved in the rebellion. They carry out the rebellion, and then over the course of it, basically they fight all the officers, take out Doflamingo, right? But that's all one day. Now imagine you took that plotline, quadrupled the number of characters and backstories you have to learn about, increase the stakes astronomically in terms of like the size of the villains' empires, the number of bad guys that are involved and everything like that. Length of time, you make it 2 weeks longer, etc. But you only make it 50 more chapters. It's only 50 more chapters. So it's like, in terms of story size, theoretically, this is like Dressrosa times 5. But in terms of length of chapters devoted to it, it's Dressrosa times 1.5. So that's what we mean when people suggest that like, Oda didn't necessarily take maximum time in fleshing out this story. Ivan back from the card shop says, imagine Kaido got back up just for ZKK to happen as one last middle finger to Raid fail. That'd be pretty funny. But at that point, like, I would be as confused as the next person, so I wouldn't have, like, I wouldn't even know what to say to respond to that. I'd be like, well, I guess we're all unhappy now. Anuj Agarwal says, finished my Skypiea reread. Might do a thematic breakdown thread, a Twitter thematic breakdown thread. You were right about Wiper. Throw back to that Reddit post from 6 years ago. Haha. I don't even remember that. Reddit post 6 years ago. Wiper is my favorite side character, though, that has never shown up again. Caleb Brown says, I think by comparing Ryuma to Joy Boy, it was Oda saying that Zoro, Ryuma's possible parallel, will be on the same level as Luffy, Joy Boy's parallel by the end. I don't even know, man. Maybe. Wheezy Bird says, anime, movie, games, and merch sales are up over. That's good to know. Dillionaire says, like the stream. Yeah, like the stream, everybody. Everybody like the stream. Keenan says, was a pleasure riding aboard the Raid Will Fail ship and an honor to sink along with the captain, Mr. Morb. Thank you, and thanks to everybody who stuck with it till the end. It's unfortunate the way it turned out, but, you know, some things are just not meant to be. Goomba Boomba, message deleted. That's too bad. Eric Tolado says, Morge is a great man and a man of his word. Respect. Oh, Eric, that is the sweetest thing. Guys, Eric sent me back $100 because I lost 1,000 and I had to send him 1,000. But thanks, Eric. I really appreciate that, man. You did not have to do that. These are Australian dollars, so they're worth a little less than US dollars. So, you know, just feel like I have to comment on that and make sure that that's known. Our dollar is stronger than your dollar. But thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Andrew Connor says, Will Kaido / Big Mom... Go to the Red Force podcast. Go check out the Red Force podcast. I feel like I should say something on that. Go check out the Red Force podcast. Best One Piece podcast around. Andrew Connor says, will Kaido / Big Mom come back during the festival? If you guys believe, then you know what? Anything's possible. But me, I'm done. I've gone through... I've made my peace. I've already made my peace. Kaido and Big Mom can never be mentioned in the story again, and I wouldn't think about it once. Srinavis Sardi, thank you, appreciate it. Wisdom Minari says, what will be the next arc analysis big video? Do you have any interest in it being Alabasta? No, I kind of have to do Wano. You kind of got to do Wano, right? Wano just wrapped. You kind of got to do Wano. You can't just skip Wano. So I got to do Wano for sure. All right, everybody like the stream right now. It's all like the stream. I think everybody can take a moment to like the stream. I got to do Wano. And, maybe rereading Wano will give me some new appreciation for it or something like that. I hope to do a good analysis on it. But beyond that, maybe I'll do Alabasta. Because Alabasta is my Loki. It's not my favorite One Piece arc, but it's the first One Piece arc that, like, I think of when I'm like, what's an arc that defines one, that, like, encapsulates what One Piece is in miniature. And to me, that's how I think, like, I view Alabasta as the classic One Piece arc. Not necessarily the best, but it's kind of like, that's the OG One Piece arc where, like, One Piece really stepped up to kind of the type and scale of storytelling that we know it to be, right? So Alabasta has a very special place in my heart. I have it at, I think it's like my third favorite storyline in One Piece. Enies Lobby's number 1, Marineford number 2. Sid P says, since the raid fail, you're gonna take the L. Yeah, I've taken the L. No worries about that. Jordan Allen says, Oda watches you more. Doubtful. All your theories were right. Doubtful. Which drove him to change plot points, but without time to plan new stuff on the fly, he changed most of them to nothing. My uncle is Oda's editor. All right, thanks, Jordan Allen. Good to know. Sid P says, since Yamato joining, are you salty? Since Yamato joining, am I salty? If Yamato joins, that's gonna be... If Yamato actually joins, that's going to be kind of brutal. Because Yamato, in my opinion, is, like, just a terrible, terrible character. And, like, I don't know how to explain this, but I was very, very, very open to a long time for the idea of Yamato joining the crew, Yamato being a good character. Like, I was excited when Yamato was introduced as a character. We got her design and everything like that. I was taken in, just like the rest of you. I was really, really having high hopes for a character for a long period of time. So, I don't know how to say this other than, like, believe me, for a long period of time, I was biased towards Yamato. It's just chapter after chapter after chapter, I just saw, like, this one-dimensional dummy just ranting and raving about the stuff that she's read in her diary over and over. No sense, like, absolute naivety. No sense of, like, trying to, like, having to grow or learn or understand anything, basically just, like, spouting the same bullshit chapter after chapter, continuing to believe that she's literally Kazuki Oden, or the next Kazuki Oden or whatever, right? Essentially going directly in the face of the theme of being yourself and the importance of being yourself, a theme that was very important in Whole Cake Island and is still being played as important in Wano, but directly contradicting that theme. That's Yamato. I'm just waiting and waiting for her to have a character arc, revelation, something, someone telling her that, like, hey, have you thought about things a little bit differently or something like that? Just waiting and waiting. Nothing's happened. So if Yamato joins the crew, that would be, I don't even know how to explain, like, absolute confusion on my, like, it just wouldn't make sense to me. It wouldn't make sense to me one bit. It would be like, what the fuck just happened? Who is this? Like, it would be like if some fan just made up a character, pointed a gun to Oda's head and was like, hey, you have to write this character exactly as I say you got to write it, and you got to force him onto the crew. And it's like, all right, I guess that we just have Yamato, this big-titted, delusional Oden fanboy with zero character development, shoved into the crew. Also, she's got advanced Conqueror's haki. Also, she has 0 interactions with the rest of the crew over the course of the entire arc, but just said that she wants to join, so she's going to join. It's like, what? Pirate Hero says, Morge, I lost my mortgage on the raid fail. What do I do? Thank God. All right. Pirate Hero had to lose something as well. JK, I never said the raid would fail. I was playing both sides like Apu. God damn it. Yeah, can we talk about... Could talk about Apu, but he's almost not worth talking about. It's like, I guess no one really cares about Apu's storyline at this point. It's kind of just like, all right, Apu, he was just Apu. He was just really shitty. Then he got away with being shitty, and now he's still around. Like, I guess that's just the way it played out. Trust my white van says, I don't think Wano is over yet. I mean, you're right. It's technically not over. We've still got a few more chapters, it looks like. Andrew Connor says, will there be an Act 4 and Vegapunk and Wano? If you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, man, I would have said yes. At this point, I don't think there'll be an Act 4. PK Jew says, love you, Morge. I've been others tube instead of YouTube, and I've fallen astronomically just like Kaido and Big Mom lol JK. However, it has been a while, and I hope all is well, and damn, raid didn't fail. Yeah, damn, raid didn't fail. But thanks for dropping by. And the sport. Keenan says, anime YouTuber GigUp said that if the Alabasta Saga was just its own anime, it would still be an amazing watch as a standalone series. Do you agree? I 100% agree. I 100% agree. That's what's so cool about Alabasta. But at the same time, no, like if you got like a little bit of context and like maybe some of the build-up arcs were included in there as well, then yeah. That's why it's like classic One Piece to me. Because like the further you go into One Piece, it's harder to extract any singular storyline from all of the context around it. I think East Blue and Alabasta, those are kind of like, and Skypiea, funnily enough, like those are some of the final arcs where you can kind of just read individually those arcs and just like get the full gist and feel and emotion out of the story without really knowing any broader context. Reverend says, oh, thanks, Morge, I like you that you see how Apu, Hawkins, Drake all give Kid the credit. The theory of the supernova joining Kid, does it still stand? And if so, what about Law? I doubt that the other supernova joined Kid, because at this point it's just like, I don't feel like he made enough of an impression to them specifically. Like, I don't remember Drake seeing anything really from Kid. Apu, I think it'd be a little strange for him to join Kid or Kid to accept him at this point, because they didn't really go through much together or anything like that, other than Kid being mad at him. There's no way Law joins Kid, because Law's just been portrayed. Law and Kid are being portrayed as equals. Talha Jahan says, calling it now if you're not Monster Trio. Calling it now if you're not. Monster Trio, Kid/Law, you're not 100% guaranteed meaningful panel time per arc. If you are not Monster Trio or Kid or Law, you're not 100% guaranteed meaningful panel time per arc going forward, even if you're Strat and it's a major arc. I think that that's correct. I mean, like, we already knew that was the case. Like, who believed that Frankie had guaranteed meaningful panel time even after Enies Lobby? Although he did get stuff, Thriller Bark, things like that, Dressrosa. But I like to personally believe that we are going to get a little bit away from, like, the heavy roster and casts of, Wano, and shift a bit more towards maybe crew-centric things. So, like, just cutting some of the fat might help characters that are, not Monster Trio, not Kid and Law, to get some more meaningful story times. Sid P says, is Morge from India? You could just ask me directly. You don't have to say, is Morge from India? Like you're asking about like a general concept. You could say, are you from India? I was born in India, and I moved here when I was like 1.5 or 2 or something like that. The pirate here says, I keep shouting out Morge raid discussions, please read. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. All right, let's see. Morge raid discussions has just been the longest running. Hold on. Morge raid discussions is saying, come on, Morge, you can do it. I feel like I've seen all of your comments except for the actual... Oh, wait, found it. Morge raid discussions, who has been asking a question for the longest time. I have many clips of your raid arguments / fun random moments on my channel. I follow every stream and record my favorite moments. Can help with your clip channel. I already have, though. Okay, thank you. Okay, I get you now. I think... How do I do this? because I already got some people on the job, but I can check out your channel as well. Can you message me on... what's the easiest? Let's do... Yeah, just do... No. Send me through email and just say I'm more raid discussions or whatever. And we'll figure it out from there, basically. I think email is better than Twitter. Daniel Paredes says, not to stoke East versus West debates again, but if Yamato joins, it feels like the only win by the Western Fantasy had for all of Wano, if only due to the only overhype. I don't fully understand your statement, but yeah, I think a lot of people in the West will be really hyped if Yamato joins the crew. Noah Phillips says, have you heard of Definitely Best Guy Ever? He wanted you on his podcast talking pirates. Yeah, I think we had a brief exchange on Twitter, and I was kind of like, I don't feel like, not for him specifically, but more like, I think at that point in time that he reached out to me, I wasn't in the mood to do a One Piece collab necessarily. In general, I'm not super down to do One Piece collabs just because it's nothing personal ever. It's literally just because I talk about One Piece so much. I don't want to do collabs on top of everything I'm already doing One Piece wise, you know? So the collabs I do are usually if I know the person already somewhat well, basically, in like, you know, it's kind of, you know, if they're reaching out and asking, basically, it's like, I'm going to, you know, it's like the courtesy, the polite thing to do, right? So, like, I know Brago for a long time. If he reaches out, I'm like, yeah. Jay, I've known for a long time. He reached out. I was like, yeah. Randy Troy recently. I've gotten to know him better recently, so I'm like, yeah. But usually it's, like, not my favorite thing to jump on and do. Kakashi Snitch 9 says, if not Yamato, then who should join, and don't say Larrett? I don't know. At this point, I would prefer nobody join this arc, but it does feel like this is an arc where somebody's going to join. So this is one. I've said enough things that turned out to be incorrect, so I'm going to just wait and see. Trust My White Van says, don't give up hope, Morge. I'm still betting there will be more to Wano. Don't give up hope now. You might regret. I think it is easier at this point to not have hope and then be pleasantly surprised than the other way around. I would much prefer that. I think that that'll be way easier. Andrew Connor says, what justice will Green Bull have? Question mark. Lazy and unclear. I don't know. I've genuinely no idea. But I am very much looking forward to seeing more of the new Admiral, just because, like, once we see the new Admiral, like, for the longest time, the hype things were Yonko and Admirals, right? Yonko and Admirals, that was what was exciting. Yonko, Admirals, right? Those were the key players that we were all interested in seeing. So we finally got all the Yonko, we got pretty much all the Admirals. This is our last guy. Think about that. Once we get Ryukogyu, once we get Green Bull, that's our last guy. We've got all the Admirals. We've got all the Yonko. There's no big surprises in any of the major players remaining. We've even seen most of the Revolutionaries, probably all of them. The only guy that's a little mysterious still that's left out there is Im. Im is our last question mark. But once we get all the Admirals, like, that's it. We got all of them. Got the complete deck. Diego C says, Morge. In Shakespearean talk, Morge. How doth thee bethink Weevil shall cometh into play it in the story? Whatever. I personally thought that we would see Weevil and Wano just because of the discussion of rocks. So much discussion of rocks going on. So, like, I was like, all right, so maybe maybe things connect in Wano. Especially because Weevil's on Marco's tail and Marco ended up in Wano. I thought that would be a good opportunity. But, you know, it's not the way it went. So I don't really know how Weevil comes into play now. Edwin Rodriguez, I don't think he gets captured by the world government, though. Edwin Rodriguez says, Morge, when are we getting Croc's nephew's merch? Croc's nephew greater than Odin cosplayer. Well, what if I told you that they're the same person? Crocodile's nephew and Yamato may as well be the same exact thing. Caleb Brown says, Drake bet on Luffy and Hawkins on Kaido, look who won. Drake bet on Luffy and Hawkins on Kaido, look who won. Yeah. Yep. I wish that was played up a little bit more over the course of... It's just how brief so many things are. How brief so many things that are really interesting on paper just ended up being. You know what I mean? Zid P says, do you think Vivi will come back to the crew? I have always felt like Vivi won't come back to the crew just because I think Vivi kind of needs to have her name untainted by the Straw Hat Pirates, so she'll forever be a secret member. Because I feel like Vivi could be at the head of the world government in the future, basically. Like, once it's reformed and changed. Miss Super Chat from Goomba Boomba. Big Mom said this isn't the end for her in her monologue. If Kaido and Big Mom fell in the same place, wouldn't that mean that it isn't the end for Kaido too? Look, man, I would love to believe that. I would love to believe that. More Dreid discussion says, what's your email? The Twitter on email isn't exist. The Twitter on email isn't exist. Hold on. What's wrong with my email on Twitter? Is it not correct? Is it not correct? Is it incorrect? Oh, shit. I changed it to some... I'm dumb. I'm dumb. MrMorgeman@gmail.com. It's pretty straightforward, but note to self, I gotta change that. First name, last name says, at Joe Mama, want to know why smiles weren't solved? At Joe Mama wants to know why smiles weren't solved. I'm sure Chopper will do something about them before we head out. I'm sure that they won't just leave them as smile fruit users. Donchi says, what are your thoughts on Straw Hat Tashigi? I don't think Tashigi joins the crew. The Pirateer says, Warriors versus Celtics tonight. Also, me and Phantom Greyfire want to know when your bookshelf is coming. Oh, there's no bookshelf coming. I'm going to get shelves put in the back. And they've actually been here for probably like 5 months now. I just haven't gotten them installed. It's also coming up on the point where I have to switch leases. So I'm like, fuck, do I set it up here and then get it taken down and then move it again? I don't know yet. Haven't figured it out. And yeah, Warriors versus Celtics tonight. I'm rooting for the Warriors. I'm hoping that they win. I'm hoping that they can kind of close out this series. Steph gets his finals MVP. Warriors dynasty kind of cements itself. I'm looking forward to all of these things. Just hope those dirty Celtics don't win it. Just kidding. I don't think they're dirty. I wouldn't even mind it that much if the Celtics win. I just feel like they don't deserve it. I feel like they're not. I feel like they're like a really talented team that fucks up so often that like they just don't deserve to win a championship. But obviously, if they win it, that means they overcame their problems and they do deserve it. Ivan back from the card shop says, so does Hawkins' prediction mean the Alliance was pretty much guaranteed to win? I guess that matches the actual stakes we got. It pretty much does mean that. Yep. Harish Rajmohan says, Morge, are you a KD hater? I am not. It's hard to explain. KD, the person? No, it's so hard to explain. Because, like, I find KD hilarious on Twitter a lot. And I actually really respect how much he claps back on people on social media. I actually respect that quite a bit. But I do dislike him a lot for a lot of other reasons, which is, like, he doesn't acknowledge that the move that he made was weak, even though it is clearly weak. He doesn't acknowledge a lot of things that are blatantly true. He's very sensitive, clearly. There's just a lot of things about KD that piss me off. And the flip side is I'm also a big Steph Curry fan, and I'm a huge LeBron fan. And KD fucked both of them over. With a single decision of joining the Warriors, KD fucked up both their legacies. He made it so that LeBron couldn't win more championships that he rightfully should have, because no player is good enough to overcome that broken-ass Warriors team. I don't care if it's Michael Jordan. I don't care who it is, right? No player was beating that Warriors team as soon as KD joined, right? So he ruined LeBron's legacy, and he ruined Steph's legacy inadvertently by basically stealing the spotlight from him, winning those finals MVPs, stuff like that, you know? Even though KD on his own was not capable of getting to the finals and just got swept in the first round. He lost to the Warriors back when he played against them. It's just, he ruined everything, man. He ruined everything. But at the same time, I will always say that KD is the best scorer that I've ever seen, and I'll always respect how good as a basketball talent he is. And I really like the way he acts on Twitter. I think it's hilarious. Bard here says, weren't the Rockets going to beat them if Chris Paul didn't get injured that game? It's so hard to say because literally the next year, they had the reverse situation where KD got injured. So KD got injured, so it's like, okay, Rockets, if you really are that good, well, now it's the reverse situation. Now KD's injured, and the Warriors, we're playing with a disadvantaged squad. So in theory, you should be able to put us away then, right? No, they just lost those 2 games anyway. So I don't personally, so like, initially I would have been like, yeah, Rockets probably would have won if Chris Paul didn't get injured. Now I'm like, no, I think the Rockets would have just, things would have played out in a way that the Rockets just couldn't close it in the end anyway. Like those Warriors teams, it always felt like at the end of the day, they're just gonna win. Basically, like if they're not winning necessarily, they're kind of like not going as hard as they could or whatever. Alex says, why is your nose so itchy? I don't know, but it's just something that happens like over time. I think like, how do I even explain this? It only happens when I'm streaming, and I'm glad you noticed it. But I think it's something like when I have to talk nonstop for long periods of time, over time, my nose starts to itch. It's bizarre, but it just happens. So you guys have noticed it probably if you've watched the streams enough, but it's just like a thing that happens. Billy Bob says, Shaq and Kobe could beat them. There's no chance at all. There's literally no chance at all. Like, yeah, Shaq has, like, in theory, it's a good matchup, but it's really not, because Shaq would, the amount of, like, the difference in pace between the way the Warriors would play versus, like, how Shaq and Kobe would be used to would be so ridiculously, drastically different. Like, Shaq would be absolutely exhausted, and they would put him in pick and rolls nonstop. Like, it would be rough. Like, he would be very dominant in his scoring, but he would be exhausted very early in whatever series that they're playing, pretty much. And there's just too much firepower, too much scoring. Shaq's probably guaranteed 2 every time, but like with that Warriors roster, no, they weren't going to be able to guard that Warriors roster. They'd be raining down threes. Like KD could probably score nearly as consistently as Shaq, to be honest. And then you got Steph and Clay basically raining down 3. Like it's just impossible. Like no one can single-handedly beat that Warriors team, right? And Kobe, as good as he wasn't like prime Kobe at that point in time. He wasn't prime Kobe at that point in time. The team that arguably might have a good shot at it, I think that the Shaq Kobe team is obviously like has an argument for like best team of all time, but like I think the Bulls would have had a good shot just because they had the right matchups. So Pippen, Rodman, and Jordan, right? Because they're all-time elite defenders and they all could theoretically match up with the Warriors' best players, so Steph, Clay, and KD. Right there, I would say theoretically there's a good matchup, right, that other teams wouldn't have, and it just so happens to match up that they can defend the 3 positions that need to be defended there, in theory. Billy Bob says, you gassing Steph and KD up because LeBron lost to them. Well, I mean, yeah, it's the best player of all time. It took literally the second and third best players of his generation teaming up to beat him. HH says, I don't understand American sports. I think I wasn't a basketball fan for a long time either. So, I feel you. KQ says, in principle, it's a good matchup, but they'd get beat badly. I agree that they would lose. I'm just saying in theory. Like, on paper, the Shaq-Kobe Lakers are a terrible matchup. Like, they would definitely lose. The Lakers would definitely lose. Whereas the Bulls, you could make an argument. Kenpachi says Steve Kerr would know how the 96 Bulls play. Yeah, that's the other big part of it. He's got the inside knowledge. Ghost on Boo says Yamato, Caribou, and Apu are joining the Straw Hats. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. Billy Mob says stop the cap. Stop the cap. You all know Jumpman, the real GOAT. I think Jordan is the greatest player of all time, as in he has the most impressive resume and accomplishments of all time. But LeBron is the best player of all time. It's just that circumstances played out in a way that, like, you know, as I said, the second and third best player of his generation teamed up to make sure that he didn't win more rings. there's nothing he can do about that. He played as well as anyone could possibly play against those teams, but there's nothing he can do about that. Therefore, at the end of the day, his resume is not quite as good as Jordan's, so Jordan gets to remain the greatest of all time, but LeBron is definitely the better player all time. Talha Jahan says, Nami's dream is too long to achieve in the main story. Here's my thoughts on Nami's dream. It's something I talked about in, like the end game for each Straw Hat. I think with Nami's dream, I think that once the Straw Hats reach the end of the red line, they'll have to make a trip back through, because it does seem like they will have to get back through Reverse Mountain and then go that way to Marie Joie. There's a lot of reasons for this. Lots of various theories basically point to that happening. I do think that basically on their return journey or whatever, actually, even if it's through New World or through the Grand Line, whatever way that they have to go back around but get back to Marie Joie, it's basically spanning all the way from Paradise to the Grand Line again, right? I mean, it's spanning half the world again, right? That's what I mean, right? So we know right now that the only way that you can really do that is you have to go from island to island, wait for the log post to reset, then go from island to island again, right? The only way to really speedrun that is if you've got a perfectly mapped out map of the world. So in theory, whenever the Straw Hats reach, the end of the red line and they've got to go back to Marie Joie, be that through Paradise again or be that going back through the New World again, they're going to have to speedrun it, right? They can't waste time going from one island, wait, go to another island, wait, go to another island, wait. So in that case, I think Nami's map of all of the islands that she's mapped out in their journey so far will be very, very valuable, and that she'll be like, okay, I can get us straight there directly because I've got this map that I've been working on. So she won't necessarily have a map of the whole world, like all the blues and everything like that, but she'll have a clear map of the Grand Line and the New World that will probably come into play in helping the Straw Hats get back to the final battle location. Jose Lari says LeBron choked in Miami too. Yeah, but I don't even know how to say this. That was LeBron. I'm talking about LeBron once he became the LeBron that we now know, right? So he had to go through that to then turn into the LeBron that's basically the best playoff player of all time. Because you can shit on him for having the worst, probably the worst letdown or mental collapse by an all-time great player ever in the 2011 series, right? But then 2016 cancels that out and then some, because then on the flip side, you have the greatest, undisputed greatest finals performance and clutch performance coming back down from 3-1 against the team with the best record of all time, right? That's undisputed. There's nothing close that comes near that in terms of a monumental finals achievement. So it's he has the worst, but that he needed that to then become the player that can ultimately have the best performance ever. So those two things cancel out, in my opinion. Pierce Sullivan says, will Frankie get his Seastone upgrade in Wano, or will he not get any upgrades for the entire New World? I don't even know, man. I don't even know. I don't even know. There's so many things that I used to feel confident being oh, I think that he'll get this because this was kind of set up or whatever. But now it's well, if Oda doesn't feel like devoting time to focus on that, then Mohamed Sadeghi says, resume-wise, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the best. Here's the thing. You know what's crazy? A lot of people didn't know. First of all, basketball that far back is so far removed from the competitiveness. His resume is not as good as Jordan's, right? And in terms of all-time skill, he's not above Jordan or LeBron. There's no argument for Kareem at all. If you want to go resume-wise, then maybe he has a better resume than LeBron, but it's not better than Jordan's. And if you want to go actual just straight-up skill, it's he dominated the 70s. We're a full fucking 50 years in the future now. It's a different... The level of talent and athleticism is so much higher than it was at that point. Noah Phillips says, stop talking about the NBA and talk about One Piece. Well, these are the questions I'm getting that happen to stand out to me. Harish Rajmohan says 2013 finals greater than 2016 finals. Sure, then LeBron's got the two greatest finals of all time. You can't give him shit for 2011 without acknowledging that he then did the reverse, which was have the greatest finals comeback of all time. All right, no more basketball. Fair enough. I'm going to wrap the stream in 10 minutes, so I'll focus on some One Piece questions. The One Piece questions I'm getting right now are like a little... All right, let's see if we can find a serious one. Not So Slick says Frankie was like the only person to win his fight with 0 power-ups. Chopper, Usopp, and Brook didn't even fight. Jinbei has yet to even go all out. Yeah, I mean, Chopper, Usopp, and Brook. I just don't even get why some of them didn't get any... I guess Oda wanted to focus on a few of them, basically. Like, I guess not everyone needed a fight, obviously, but at the same time, the fights we got, outside of Robin's, in my opinion... Toby Roppo fights I'm talking about, not Calamities. The Frankie fight was really lackluster. Jinbei, yeah, didn't even go all out. I'm just surprised that, like, Frankie, it was kind of just the same stuff that we've already been seeing from him, just kind of put together. So I don't know. Nikolai says, general thoughts on Frankie as a character. I don't know how we've shifted over to this Frankie discussion, but that's a pleasant surprise. I would love to see more of Frankie in general. Like, Frankie was low-key one of my favorite Straw Hats during the Enies Lobby arc when that was first coming out. He was shaping up to be one of my favorites. It's just that I don't feel like there's consistently good storylines for Oda to fall back on for Frankie, and consistent ways for him to develop his character. Like, with Robin, for the first time, Oda kind of fell back on, you know, Robin's past, her history, and how that's changed with the Straw Hats, and what her motivations now that she's with the crew, and what she wants to be as a part of the crew. So that was touched on between spanning Zoe to Wano. We did finally get some refocusing on that in Robin. With Frankie, I think Oda might... I don't know exactly, like, what Oda wants or, like, can consistently fall back on in terms of Frankie's character, basically, going forward, you know? Bearded Sifu says pre-time skip Frankie was much better. I'll say post-time skip Frankie, like, it does feel more like a meme. Like, a lot of it falls back on memes pretty regularly, you know what I mean? Like, yelling super, cola. He talks about the Sunny a lot, which I guess he's supposed to, but it kind of feels like when that's all you mention, like, oh, the Sunny's great, the Sunny will be okay, I'll fix the Sunny right up. It starts to feel like that's the only generic dialogue that can be inserted in there. Pierce Sullivan says Frankie time, best time. It was once upon a time. Joe Mama says, yeah, why can't we do a spoiler discussion? Because I'm probably going to call the stream pretty soon. And I would rather not do spoiler discussions regularly. I think I'll gauge it based on how crazy or interesting the spoilers are. I would say that, like, last time I made a special case, right? Because it was like, look, these spoilers basically announced that the raid is done. The raid did not fail, right? The raid did not fail. We had to talk about that. There was no way to not talk about that. This one, I think these spoilers are pretty avoidable. His 2018 playoffs were incredible. Yeah. 2018 playoffs, look, there's no player that's ever played better in the playoffs than LeBron did in the 2018 playoffs. Freeloader178 says, do you think it's possible that something happened to Oda and his assistants? Do you think it's possible that something happened to Oda and his assistants took over? Now there's a 4-week break so he can get back in front of the chapters. Tinfoil hat stuff. I would put that into the category of tinfoil hat stuff. It's just not worth discussing. Africano Black Kaido says, okay, nothing. Caleb Brown says, who are your Yonko of One Piece YouTubers excluding you? Wait, are people saying that I'm, like, gassing up LeBron because I'm salty about the... These are two separate discussions. LeBron is just my favorite player. Yonko of One Piece YouTubers, I mean, I think at this point you just go with the biggest channel counts, right? So the biggest channel counts are probably... I mean, I know Grand Line's number 1. I don't know if Ohara or Tekking is bigger after that. And then, I don't really know who's 4th. I assume it's... I was going to say Roger, but it might be Brago at this point. I don't actually know. So probably those 4. Thomas Cass says, I fully expected everyone to get a fight like Arlong Park, Alabasta, and Enies Lobby. Even then, the Sanji fight was anticlimactic, and Zoro fight was okay. Africano Black Kaido says, Usopp is treated worse post-time skip than Frankie. I don't think so, because Usopp got Dressrosa, which is really good arc for him. Usopp had moments in Punk Hazard. Frankie's had mostly like his scenes have been mostly, gag based, or like him being emotional about something, but like not really like serious character writing, if you know what I mean. So I think Usopp still had Dressrosa, which was a good arc for him. So I can't really say beyond that. Rujan Naru says, more to make an NBA channel. No, because I don't think just with the way, I used to be able to watch NBA like every day. With the way life is right now, I can't call myself anything more than like, when I wouldn't say casual, but like, yeah, this year I didn't watch that much NBA. So I don't feel comfortable giving like strong basketball opinions right now. I can talk about like general stuff, like how great LeBron is. But you shouldn't, I'm sure many of you don't take me seriously as, an NBA analyst by any means. Enter Name says, what's your take on Zunisha doing nothing? Added to the list of many things that feel just a little odd or feel like a little off, pretty much. Fan for Griffard says, Miss Super from Crow Straygot. When we're going through all the character reactions to Luffy's bounty and taking out Kaido, who are you excited to see the most? I want to see Teaches. Yeah, I mean, the easy ones you could list are Blackbeard, Shanks. I think Shanks will be cool because this will be like, okay, yeah, now it's like legit, official. You're there, you're up there with me. Blackbeard, Shanks, and Dragon. Dragons is interesting. I think a lot of people lost some interest in Dragon again after he had that chapter of him like sweating reading the news from the Reverie, which just seemed a little embarrassing, I think, to everybody. But I think those three stand out. Have we gotten a Shanks reaction for every Luffy bounty? I think the 100 million bounty that Luffy got, we didn't actually get reactions from many characters. We got for 30 million. 300 million, that was a classic. 300 million, like seeing the reactions from that bounty, that was a classic. One of the best periods in the series, I think. 500, I think we just got the cover story for the most part. And then 1.5 bill, that was chapter 903. That was pretty cool too. That was great. Talha Jahan says, I don't like Dressrosa Usopp since it felt regressive, and then his moment of shine got played as an annoying gag for the rest of the arc and show. Okay, I could see the argument that it felt regressive. I could see that argument. But I think at the very least, like, it depends. You have to keep in mind that, like, Usopp has never had to play the hero for people that he doesn't really know. Like, most of his moments in the past where he stepped up, it's been like his friends on the line or his village on the line or something like that, or his pride or something. But this was the first time that there was like a group of people that like thought he was this big superhero, and Usopp like he just met them. He's kind of like, I'm not a like. It was a different step for his character, but I agree that some of the fears and things that he went through were maybe like a little regressive. I could see the, one of the things I think falls into that is like the fact that it was Treble that he was experiencing these fears against, because we know that Treble is strong. He's supposed to be strong, right? We get that, but at the same time, it's like, let's say it was Doflamingo there, right? Let's say it was freaking Doflamingo standing right there, or like Kaido or something like that, right? Then maybe we could be like more understanding of Usopp like running away. But because it's Treble, it just doesn't feel that threatening. Even though Treble is obviously, like, we understood once the scene played out, Treble is obviously way, 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 way above Usopp, and the same result would happen if he went up against Doflamingo or Kaido as did with Treble, right? So from Usopp's perspective, it's the same level of threat, right? A threat that he can't defeat at all. But from our perspective, because we don't view Treble as like a dangerous character, it felt more pathetic that like Usopp's running away. You know what I mean? Crime Committer says, really wish we had gotten an additional chapter or two prior to Luffy's revival. Agreed. Ashura and Izzo's deaths happening, there could have given them more impact and added tension. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Name says, do you think Usopp will be a disappointment to his father when they meet? I like to think that Usopp will, okay, so Usopp's dad basically abandoned Usopp and his mom to die, right? I like to think that as much of a pedestal as it seems like Usopp might put his father on, because he's very proud of his father, a pirate, I like to think that instead it'll be Usopp who's maybe got some, like, anger towards his father than the other way around. I think last we saw, Yasop was excited and happy to see Usopp's bounty. So I think that Yasop won't necessarily be disappointed in Usopp, but I would love to see Usopp not just like worshiping his father when they meet. I think it'd be great if that's initially how he feels, but I would like if like something else comes out of that, like the fact that Usopp's mom died while Yasop was out traveling the seas and things like that. All right, guys. It's been a good stream. Thank you all for coming in. Next stream, we're going to be doing something a little bit fun. Shoot, I should have announced it this stream, but I guess I'll announce it right here, and then I'll make a community post and probably talk about it in Friday's video, stuff like that, all right? So, we're going to be doing channel memberships. That's probably fun for some of you. Some of you maybe don't care, but we're going to be doing memberships pretty much, which means that you get badges and stuff if you're in streams or if you're in comments and things like that. So, with that, we want to do another art competition pretty much. These are just memberships. This isn't anything crazy like a logo type thing, but probably something like, yeah, we'll just get the memberships. Like if you have an idea for what a badge could look like for the Morge channel or something like that, you can submit it. Winner will get, let's say, $100. I don't know, something like that. It's just a little badge basically that can go next to people's channel memberships. I think I'm doing a terrible job announcing it, but it's partly just because I just remembered it. So I think that's what we're going to do next stream. I'll make a community post and things like that. If you want to submit basically a little idea for a badge or something like that that can go in the Morge channel, then go for it. And then, you know, next stream we'll all just vote basically on which membership badge that we want to be having for the channel going forward. That's basically it. I'm trying to do a bit of a pause at the end of streams because that way it won't end abruptly like it normally does. But I don't know if it'll work like that. All right.